Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health TV and radio show. I'm your host, SARA BANTA. I'm a health coach, natural supplement expert, and a busy mom of 3. And 2 of those kids are out of the house, but that does not mean that my job has stopped. It's almost getting harder. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below so you're notified every week with my new podcasts on Mondays and Tuesdays. And if you haven't already, join my free group coaching on Telegram with the link below. I teach you on a daily basis with tips and tools to enhance your health, and you will be a part of a like-minded group to support you on your journey, in addition to truly taking control of your health. My goal is to reach everyone on earth with eyes to see and ears to hear my message of healing. So please help me with that goal. Share this podcast with a few of your friends who may need my help, especially this one. I've got my favorite friend back, Heather Hiniker. Welcome, Heather. How are you?
Hi, Sarah. I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. I'm super excited to talk about what we're talking about today. We talked about PEMF therapy, and everyone knows, both Heather and I, we're going to get into cutting edge technology talk, right? But it always goes back to, you better make sure you're sleeping, you better make sure you're eating right, and then the supplements work and the technologies work, but you got to go to the basics first. So sometimes the technologies and sometimes the supplements give you that head start so you actually are able to sleep. So it's what came first, the chicken or the egg. And what we're talking about today is PEMF therapy, specifically the BEMER, which is new to me. PEMF is not new to me. And so first of all, I want to give everybody kind of a background again on just what PEMF is. What does that mean? There are so many different devices out there like that, that are in that camp. So what does that mean, Heather?
So PEMF stands for Post-Electromagnetic Field Therapy, basically. And you're right, there's hundreds of devices. Basically what it is, most people are familiar with the term grounding. So our Earth has a magnetic field, and it is super important for us to be exposed to it. I think they did a study a long time ago where they put a bunch of students in a nickel container, and the magnetism can't get through that, and their health, their mental aspect started to dissipate really, really fast. So we actually need this magnetism. And what happens, our society that we live in today, right? We're wearing rubber shoes. We're indoors probably 90% of the time, usually on second story buildings, and we're not getting exposure to that magnetism. So, you hear people talk about being barefoot and grounding. That's giving our cells the ability to have more of that charge that's needed, and so they repel each other. They don't start clumping together and sticking. So one huge component of PEMF is what it does on the cellular level to the cells by increasing the permeability factor, which we always talk about, the phase angle, but then also making it to where they're not stuck together. The PEMF, so if you think about PEMF, and there's hundreds of devices, I had to go down the rabbit hole when we first decided to, bring one into Ascent. And, there's high-powered PEMF, there's low-powered PEMF, and unless a company actually has done studies specific on the PEMF or the intensity that's being emitted from their product, most studies are generalized and generic. And so really important to me when I'm bringing something in-house, I want to see studies specific to what that specific technology is doing. And so what attracted me to BEMER. So BEMER is classified as a PEMF device. It stands for Bio-Electro-Magnetic Energy Regulation. And it actually only uses PEMF as the conduit, so the transfer of its patented signal. The BEMER patented signal is a multidimensional waveform that actually affects something called vasomotion. And we'll get into that in a second. But what I really loved about BEMER initially was it has studies specific to the signal that it is emitting. It's the only company that actually does. And along with that, within the last couple of years, it was actually reclassified by the FDA as a Class 2 medical device. There's not another PEMF that has that designation. So that kind of speaks volumes to what BEMER is, and how profound it is. So basically, if you think about being exposed to PEMF or magnetism, you're going to get benefit. So all PEMFs do have some type of benefit. The difference of BEMER is, like I said, it's using it as the conduit of its signal. So think about our circulatory systems. Most people, when they think about blood flow, they think about large vessels. So they think about veins and arteries. Well, those only make up 26% of your entire circulatory system. The large majority of vessels are actually our capillaries. Capillaries are the teeny tiny vessels that go through every tissue, every muscle, every organ. And within our capillaries, that's where our cells are actually exchanging hormones. That's where nutrients are being absorbed. That's where waste is being disposed. And so over time, as we age or we're exposed, to certain toxins, the cells become compromised, and so does the blood flow. And so as the blood flow slows down, what happens to the red blood cells is they begin kind of sticking to each other. We've also seen that phenomenon happen a lot with certain viruses. As you know, we're not going to get into that, but we've seen blood change due to that. So it's really important to make sure that our blood is flowing at optimal levels so that the oxygen can get to the tissues. And so what BEMER actually does, the capillaries are totally different than the larger vessels, right? So your heart is responsible for pumping blood through the veins and the arteries, but the large majority of those capillaries, they have their own action. And to kind of touch on how expansive the capillaries are, an average person has about 75,000 miles of capillaries if you were to stretch them out. And keep in mind, capillaries could be as small as the 10th of a human hair. So one little hair and a 10th of it, one red blood cell could move through at a time. And you know how minute that is. So if you think about that 75,000 miles of vessels, that could almost go around our Earth 3 times. Okay, that's in each of us. So there's no possible way our hearts are able to do the job of pumping blood through that network. So the capillaries actually have their own action. It's kind of like a pump. It's called vasomotion. And so it's the constriction and dilation of the capillary walls. That's how the blood starts moving through. Someone who is in their prime, an elite athlete, they probably have 4 to 6 of those occurrences in 1 minute. As people get older, or if they have a diagnosis such as diabetes, they might only have 1 pump in 4 minutes. What the BEMER device does that no other device does and no other pill does is basically increase that instance. And it's been proven in published studies that it increases it by about 30%. Along with that, it's increasing oxygenation of tissues by 30%. So for me, when we're exposing people, we have 13 modalities in here. And when we're exposing people to certain things, I really love to do the BEMER first. In fact, 95% of our clients own BEMERs at home because ideally, when you're exposed to an 8-minute session on the full body mat, that's giving you optimal blood flow for about 12 to 16 hours. And then it slowly starts falling off over several days. So if you do it twice a day for 8 minutes, you have optimal blood flow 24/7. And that is giving your body the opportunity to regulate itself and begin the self-healing process. What other questions? Because I can just go on and on about BEMER. I'm such a huge fan.
Yeah, no, a lot of questions. One point I wanted to emphasize is you mentioned that you like to see the studies for that technology. It's the same as, I had Karan Krishnan talking about the microbiome and some probiotics and spore biotics. And he was saying that a lot of the probiotic companies are using facts and stating, statistics according to one specific strain, but they're claiming that it's their strain is doing the same thing. My point is is you've got to know where your food's coming from, where your supplements are coming from, where your technologies are coming from, and are the studies and the clinical studies for that specific supplement or device or food, whatever it is. And that's why it's so important and so impressive that BEMER has all of these studies specific to them. So I wanted to touch on that. The blood capillaries thing. I mean, my mind is going in a million directions. Like, who is this helping, right? Neuropathy. And then you mentioned diabetes. I just was talking on a podcast about insulin resistance has skyrocketed, and insulin resistance is skyrocketing not just because of sugars and the processed foods, but it's skyrocketing because of the spike protein, because of radiation, because of toxins, and the clumping of the blood. So my introduction to health was when Jackson, my son, was 9 years old, and his blood was underneath a microscope. And that blood had a whole bunch of clumps in it. And then there were these spiky cells that were the cancer cells. Okay. So the clumps, I know exactly what you're talking about, because there's no way, didn't matter what he ate, what he did, how can the nutrients get in the cell? They were all clumped, right? So when you spread them out, you make them nice and plump, and the circulation is coming in and out, you can get the toxins out, you can get the nutrients in. We are in an era where the amount of radiation, the amount of processed foods, GMOs, glyphosate. I just came across a news article that said Fukushima has started to release their radioactive water just last Thursday. Okay, you guys, that's in our seaweed. That's in our other sources of iodine supplements. Make sure you know where you're getting your iodine. Accelerated Health Products iodine comes from South America, not from the Asias, which most iodine supplements come from. But my point is, we are under threat, and that Fukushima radioactive water is going to be coming its way to the United States. It's going to be here. We are all one. It's all going to be affecting us. My point is that the need for things like the BEMER and to enhance our blood circulation and to overcome the new level of threats in our world is going to be higher and higher and higher. So I feel like, and tell me if I'm wrong, the BEMER is like that base starting ground, that foundation where your diet, your other technologies, your supplements kind of add on, and the BEMER is going to allow everything else you're doing become more effective.
100%, especially when it comes to nutrition, supplementation. When your cells are able to absorb more readily, everything else is going to work a lot better. We work with a lot of doctors that actually have BEMERs in their facilities now, medical doctors, because it is classified as a class 2 medical device, and they're using it in conjunction with different therapies. I have to be real careful when I'm talking about diseases and diagnoses. I'm not a doctor, so we don't cure, treat, diagnose anything, but we do work with MDs that are actually using the BEMER in conjunction with the therapies that they're doing. IV therapy is so much more effective when you do BEMER prior to, because it's allowing all of your cells to be separated and now ready to take in the nutrients that that's being delivered. You touched on something that I think is really important to understand. There's no escaping, the exposure to what we're being exposed right now. I mean, if we're alive, we're going to be exposed to toxins. We're going to be exposed to 5G. And, in a perfect world back in the day, way back in the day, people were walking around barefoot. They were hunting. They were walking miles and miles every single day. They were out in the sun and getting that vitamin D. The water was cleaner. Everything was cleaner. And so your body actually did its job. It regenerated. It healed itself if it got hurt. And now, the reason why I think devices like BEMER and some of the other devices are so profound is because they allow the body to do what it's meant to do. And honestly, as we keep going without devices like this, our bodies are just going to get more toxic, more inflammation. I mean, everything starts at the cellular level. And what happens, why I think BEMER is also so important, is when you're separating the cells, you're allowing them to separate, and you're increasing the voltage around the cells and the permeability around the cells, the waste and toxins are actually able to escape too. So yes, getting the supplements and the nutrients is super important into the cell. But one of the most important things is actually detoxing. Sarah, you and I were talking about this the other day, how there are so many practitioners that just talk about, the way to eat and how to get nutrients and, stuff like that, but they're not talking about getting rid of what compiles in the cell. And as those waste and toxins actually just start compiling over the years, that's when it turns into systemic inflammation. And in time, systemic inflammation is going to turn into a disease or a pain state. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. So if you expose yourself to something like BEMER every single day, you're mitigating a lot of that. I think I heard a crazy fact, and I don't know how exact it is, but they say there's like 40,000 diseases, and about 90% of them are due to lack of blood flow. And when it comes down to it, it's flow, right? When our lymphatic system is flowing optimally, our immune system kicks in, we're able to get rid of waste, but everything starts in that capillary system. That's where the cells are disposing their waste. And then, yes, it's a cascade of other systems that become involved. But if you can optimize the capillaries and the blood flow within that, you're way ahead of the game.
The detox word is so controversial because there's a lot of people out there saying, well, the body naturally detoxes with its detox organs, the lymph, the kidneys, and the liver. Well, our detox organs were meant for our ancestors and not under the bombardment of the excess toxins, the halogens, the dioxins that are in our animal products. That's why it's really important to stay with grass-fed, grass-finished meats and wild meat, and not the chicken and the amyloid protein, conventional beef type meats, which, believe me, I miss those too. So it's just this new reality that we're in. You had mentioned phase angle, and I know you have the InBody that tests the phase angle. Have you seen an improvement in phase angle with just the BEMER?
So that's a hard question for me to say yes to. I mean, obviously, most of our clients have BEMERs at home. All of their phase angles are increasing, but it takes a village, right? I mean, they're also starting to eat better. They're supplementing better. They, come and do other technologies here. I know for a fact it plays a huge role just because I know what it does on a cellular level, but I haven't done a study of clients that are just only doing BEMER and making no other changes. So I have to answer that, cautiously. But I mean, with all of my heart, I know what it's doing at that cellular level. And phase angle, we talk about it. It's the marker that typically only goes down with age. And so to even get your phase angle to maintain and not go down anymore is a big win. But when we start increasing that phase angle or seeing that phase angle increase, that is a true sign of cellular age reversal. And we are, reverse aging from the inside out is basically what's happening. I work with a dermatologist, MD, that is a huge believer in BEMER. She has multiple at her facility. And our initial talks were about, obviously a dermatologist, she cares about skin. And talking and really understanding your skin is only going to look as good as your inside, right? Your cells. If you're, getting rid of waste and toxins, your skin's going to look a lot clearer and brighter. Your eyes are going to be a lot clearer and brighter. It plays such a significant role, the BEMER does, and what I see, usually as people age, and, that's what we were talking about initially, that's when the blood flow slows down. Well, what else happens when, you talk to elderly people? A lot of times they start losing the sensation in their fingers and their toes, because those are the furthest thing away kind of from the organs, right? That's what's keeping us alive. So the body's super smart. It knows how to protect itself. So the capillaries are going to start diminishing in these areas. Also, people with diagnoses of, I think it's called Raynaud's disease, where they're constantly cold. I have seen incredible results, and once people have been using the BEMER, but the elderly population tends to react the fastest to it because their blood flow has been slowing down for so many years. So they actually start feeling it pretty significantly. And when it comes to things like neuropathy, there was a handful of clients that came in. It was crazy, all at the same time. They were exposed to a certain vaccine. And one of the common denominators with them was that they had neuropathy and they had ringing in the ears. A lot of these people were not from California, so they couldn't come into Ascent to see me. And so they actually ended up buying the BEMER and using the patches, and their neuropathy is gone. Their ringing in their ears are gone. And that was a handful of people, to be honest with you. So, blood flow plays a huge, huge role in everything that our body is going through.
Well, and you mentioned neuropathy. Neuropathy usually is related to insulin resistance and diabetes. And so this this makes it amazing for the whole population, knowing that most people are insulin resistant or pre-diabetic or diabetic. Pain. Let's talk about pain. I can tell you that my mom, who's 80 years old, she fell off her horse, and I can't believe she still rides a horse, but she she fractured her pelvis. Now, she had osteopenia, so we always knew that her bones were fragile. I actually am shocked that it wasn't any worse. I think she got really lucky. Immediately, I called Heather and I said, we need to get her on a BEMER ASAP. And she's been so good doing treatments every 2 to 3 hours since her accident. And she uses it across her ribs as well. And she says definitely she can feel it take away the pain. But what stories have you seen with pain relief, and how quickly does it help healing of something like this?
So I can share a couple stories. One is a personal story of mine that actually happened to me. It was probably about a year, not even close to a year after I got my BEMER in 2016. I was in a really bad bike accident and I broke the smallest bone in my hand right here and then 2 ribs. And I had never broken anything in my life, especially ribs. And I thought I was like internal bleeding. I mean, we went to the ER, they took an x-ray and they're like, yeah, you have 2 fractured ribs. And I'm like, okay, what can we do? Because I can't move, I can't breathe, I can't talk. And the doctor's like, there's nothing you can do for ribs. You're just going to have to heal. We can give you pain medicine. And I was like, I'm not taking pain medicine, so thanks. And then it clicked. I remember when I was at a training for BEMER, one of their academies with the doctors and everything, and they were talking how the high intensities that BEMER emits actually help form osteoblasts, which are bone cells. And so I remember just taking the B pad, which is the little applicator that looks like a belt, and wrapping it around my ribs several times a day for 20 minutes at the higher intensities. And within about a day and a half, 2 days, my pain was pretty much gone. And within a week and a half, I was healed. So that was an aha moment to me of how powerful BEMER is, even though it's considered a low level PEMF. When we were going to first bring in PEMF into Ascent, I looked at everything and I honestly thought I was going to get one of the $40,000 super high Gauss PEMF devices, because, we're also conditioned to thinking higher is better. And if you can feel it, it's probably better. There are some of these devices that when you have it on, you actually convulse with the pulsed electromagnetic field that's being emitted. That's how powerful it is. We had one here just testing it for about 3 weeks, and most of our clients didn't love it. Whereas BEMER, you don't necessarily feel it, okay? Because you don't feel your capillaries pumping blood through them. You don't feel that vasomotion occurrence. So the only side effects you feel if it's not working is, the pain or, a certain diagnosis, or you get the numbness. But with BEMER, it's not a matter of if it works 100% of the time. And you'll probably want to Google this, and it might even be on your website, Sarah, which I'm sure it is if you go to your website and click BEMER. But there's a before, during, and after video of BEMER. And it shows, okay, this is what the blood flow was before being exposed. here's what it is a few minutes after being exposed to BEMER, and you can actually see the increase slightly. And then 8 minutes after, it's like night and day. They'll show the before and after, and that's the phenomenon that happens 100% of the time to every single person that's exposed to BEMER. So it's not a matter of if it's going to work for you. I mean, there's so many things out there where it's like, hopefully it works for these people, but not necessarily you. This works 100% of the time. Now, is it going to take away pain or, take away other things right overnight? Probably not, right? Because everyone responds in their own time. It depends how long or chronic you've had something. The faster you get injured, the faster you should get on the BEMER. So if you're injured, like that's the first thing I do. If I roll my ankle on a run or if I pull something when I'm working out, I'll go and do the BEMER immediately. And I usually get immediate relief from that. We've had clients come in, one in particular, it was more of a chronic situation. He had tennis elbow. And he's like, I've been using ibuprofen every single day, like for 6 months. Nothing is touching this. My wife told me about this. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, usually when something's chronic, it takes more than one exposure, obviously. So we did a program on him with one of the applicators. And right after, he said, it might feel a little bit better. And, sometimes that's in people's heads. Like if it's like, oh, it might. And I'm like, cool. Usually it takes, an hour or so for the body to start responding. So just kind of be cognizant of where you are now and where you are in an hour. He texted me that evening and said, the pain is completely gone. I cannot believe this. And then it never came back. Like I followed up with him and which you guys is not the norm. Okay. Most of the time it's going to take multiple applications, honestly. Like, most of the time people are coming in a couple times a week, 3 times a week to get exposed to it. But you do notice a difference after one session if, you're in tune with your body, right? My personal experience, and, I'm sure you have a personal experience too, I'm pretty healthy. I'm not in chronic pain all the time. So it takes a lot for me to actually realize something. But in 2016, before I had access to BEMER, I would actually have like an afternoon crash where I'd pick my daughter up. She was in, God, this was how long ago, Sarah? It's 2004 almost. She was in elementary school. She's graduating high school now. And I would just be like, okay, Violet, you go ahead and start your homework. I'm going to take a 20-minute nap and then I'll come help you and do dinner and all the stuff. After BEMER, the first time, that is what shifted for me. I did not have a crash. And for me, that was everything. So I was like, I'm a fan. I'm going to buy one. I don't know if we're going to bring it in the office. I'm going to do more research. But if it does this for me, that's everything. And then what it does for sleep too, my gosh. I was always the person that would want to push snooze 1 million times in the morning. If you let me, I would just keep pushing snooze. With the BEMER, there's special programs that actually will kind of lull you into a deep sleep. There's on the new one, the new Evo, they have these programs. They're shorter duration, so you don't actually sleep with it at this point. The older ones, there's a sleep program that you can put on, but the new one actually will put you into a parasympathetic, kind of get you into that theta state. You go to sleep, and then when you wake up, after doing that basic plan for the first few weeks, you can do these where it will actually rev you up. So like during my meditation and my prayer in the morning, that's what I do my morning BEMER session. And it just gives you this energy that doesn't feel overstimulating. It's just a consistent, constant energy throughout the day. And there's nothing like it for me. I don't like feeling like this. I like to just be.
I would say the same thing. I wake up in the morning and I put myself on it. I don't have a lot of pain, but sometimes I'll put it on my lower back just to warm things up and help with that area of my body. But the other question I wanted to ask you, because I know there's a program to put around your head and around your brain. So what testimonials or what have you seen with any brain injury, brain fog, anything to go along with the head?
So since BEMER's been reclassified a class 2 medical device, we don't really talk about putting it on the head. Now I can tell you from what I've seen, there are some very effective exposures around that area, but there's a law called Arndt's law, and it talks about very low level stimulus or energy is actually supportive and regenerative to cellular health. And then as you start going up, like, 5G or the bad stuff, like the highest stuff, that actually arrests and retards cellular function. With BEMER, higher is not better. So you got to think the lowest settings on BEMER are like 3.5 microtesla. It is so minute. It's actually less than what standing barefoot in the grass is, like where we're at. It's about, I think that's like half Gauss or 50 microtesla, thereabouts where we're at. So the lowest of the BEMER is 3.5, and then it goes up, like the next one is like 7. And it will go up to about 150 with the applicators, but with when we're kind of trying to affect certain tissues in the body, I'll say it that way, because again, we're not talking diagnoses or anything like that. But if I'm trying to affect a soft tissue, and when I think of soft tissue, I think of like the brain's consistency or eyes or myelin sheath, nerve pathways, stuff like that. We have found that the lower levels are the most effective. So intensities 1 through 3 basically is what we have found is most effective, and talking and working with a lot of the doctors, and one of the main doctors at BEMER. And then the majority of our body, if you think about the tissue depth of that, you're thinking skin, organs, muscle. So those are the mid-range intensities, and that's kind of what the basic plan is set on, because that's the majority of your body. And then, like when I broke my rib, that was high intensity, because that's going deeper and denser, and it's helping, with osteoblasts and stuff. So when we are exposing people, I've had people come in with PTSD, with anxiety, chronic headaches, people that, can't sleep, insomnia. The low intensities with no plus signal have been the most effective. And I have seen incredible things. And usually when a client comes in, we have 13 modalities. It's overwhelming sometimes. I typically 99% of the time start with BEMER, because maybe that's all they need. It's the least expensive. It's also something that they can have at home. And so I always start with that. And if that doesn't affect it first, well, we can integrate something else that might expedite the results. But a lot of times BEMER is the magic trick to most things, just because it's blood flow. It's keeping things flowing and oxygenated.
Sports and sports performance. I know you have a lot of pro athletes that come to you, and for all of your technologies, where do they fit in with the BEMER?
They all have a BEMER at home, and so what they do, recovery is one of the most important aspects of sports performance. It's one of the most underrated. When we started this 14 years ago, no one was really talking about recovery. Now everyone that is at the top of their game has recovery days, right? And they're integrating technologies like this. So for the recovery aspect of muscle, like even in between rounds, if I'm talking to my MMA fighters, or races, tennis players, pickleball players, like in between matches, they recover so much faster because they're getting the oxygen to the tissues, and just increasing that blood flow. And then there's also, prior to competition, there's also programs that you can put on to give you that extra boost of energy, which has been really, really awesome too. But in my opinion, and when I talk to a lot of the athletes, it's that recovery aspect that BEMER provides that's second to none. And it just allows them to keep going.
What about lung function? A lot of people with long COVID have been suffering from suppressed lung function, hard time breathing. And, I'm assuming the capillaries in the lungs are going to only improve with the BEMER.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. If you Google like images of capillaries of lungs, images of capillaries in your head, that's where the majority are. And so you got to think, if you're increasing blood flow and oxygenation in those areas by 30%, they're going to function at a higher level. The brain's going to function at a higher level because it's oxygenated, it's getting rid of waste. Dementia runs in my family, Alzheimer's runs in my family. I preventatively, will treat myself or expose myself to the BEMER signal on the low settings just for that very reason. We've actually had people that were put on ventilators, clients that have come in after they survived COVID in the ventilator, and their lung capacity was so debilitated. We're talking like they had 20% capacity. And that was the first thing, because, we have our CVAC pods that have been proven to increase lung capacity, VO2 max. But a lot of times when someone's in that delicate state, CVAC's a little too much. And so we start with the BEMER, and it gets them to that next level to be able to tolerate something like, the CVAC. So, it definitely plays a huge role. I mean, in anything, because the body, we always go back to it, the body is the miracle. It is really capable and very smart of being able to heal itself, but it needs help today. And so the BEMER, I think, is just the very first level of allowing that.
Is there anyone that shouldn't use it? I mean, I know a lot of people are too sensitive for the amp coil or the biocharger because they're super strong technologies. Is there anyone that is too sensitive for the BEMER?
So there are a few contraindications. Yes, I'm going to go over those with you first, and then I'll tell you some personal stories about people being too sensitive. So main contraindication is if someone has received a donor organ, so an organ transplant, and the doctor has put them on an immunosuppressant, because that's what's going to happen. If you have someone else's organ, a doctor's going to put you on immunosuppressant so your body doesn't reject that organ because it's not your organ. BEMER actually builds up the immune system. So in addition to, improving blood flow and oxygenation, it's actually making more of an adhesion molecule called the ICAM1 molecule. It's needed for white blood cells to adhere to the capillary walls. And so that's improving immune function. Well, that would be counterintuitive if we're trying to suppress someone's immune function. Now, we have a lot of people that come in with different diagnoses or autoimmune disease, and a lot of times they're on an immunosuppressant. That's not a contraindication. It's the combination of the donor organ and the immunosuppressant. Another contraindication, since it's been reclassified a class 2 medical device, is anything electric in the body, like a pacemaker, insulin pump, anything administering medicine that's electrical. That's a contraindication as well, because it's pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. It could disrupt that electric current. Before BEMER was classified a class 2, it was a class 1, and basically just had to tell the our clients to talk to their cardiologist if they had a pacemaker, and depending on the model of it, like the newer ones were fine. It's like that today too. They have it on there, but it's been very rare that a medical doctor says don't use BEMER, because again, it is so low level. Most people don't feel anything at all when they're on it. I personally have never felt anything. I feel the benefits from doing it, but I have never felt anything while I'm on it. I've had, I would say, about 25% of people that maybe have a lot of scar tissue because they've had a ton of surgeries. So like our motocross guys, our MMA fighters, they a lot of times go, whoa, I feel tingling here. And it's usually at surgical sites that were, compromised, right? All that is the capillaries kind of opening up and coming back to life. So it feels like tingling. The BEMER doesn't vibrate, it doesn't get warm, but a lot of times people go, oh, I feel really warm. Well, that's your blood flow increasing. I've had, I think, 2 clients in how many years? So since 2016, since I've had the BEMER, that said, whoa, this is too much, and they can't be on it even at the lowest levels. They're also the people that they can't be in the office if the biocharger's on. Not even if they're way far away from it, they cannot be in it. So they're very, very sensitive. But these are the very rare people where they actually affect technologies too. So this person will affect phones and computers. It's insane. So it's rare.
Well, I know when you get your BEMER, you start on a process, and you start low and then you increase. Can you take us through the methodology of that and why you do that?
Yeah, it's adaptation, right? So the basic plan is what all of the studies have been based off of, and so it's important to stay, following the guidelines. So many times we all think higher is better, and I just want to get to the high levels. Again, that's not the case with BEMER. Higher is not better. It's just affecting different depths of tissue. So they came up with a basic plan. Now, it's actually changed since the new generation, the new EVOs come up. So what I'm going to say is different than the BEMER that you and I have right now. So a new generation just came out. It's still emitting the exact same signal. Nothing has changed in regards to mechanism of action, but the configuration of the mat has actually changed. So the prior BEMER that we have, the generation that we have, SARA, has 6 coils on the full body mat, okay? So it has those 4 circle ones where our core is, and then it has some oblong ones where the legs are. The new configuration actually has 16. So it's actually emitting much more. And so they have a new program where you basically just stay on the low exposure. So it's low settings. I think for the initial, I have to look, but it's the initial, I think 6 weeks, and then you go up to the mid-range ones, and that's when you can start incorporating some of these other special programs. Prior to that, it was exposing yourself to the real low settings first, so similar but just a little bit different. So like the low settings are opening up myelin sheath, nerve pathways. Like that's really important when you begin something. And then you go a little deeper and a little deeper each time. You don't go past 6, like that intensity 6, because then you're only really affecting the real dense tissue. And it's important not to only do one certain thing all the time too. Just with anything, because our bodies are so smart, they will adapt and they will get used to something. So with BEMER, you're constantly changing it week after week after week on both the old and the new versions, because you don't want your body to get used to it. And there are times, like it's important to listen to your body. If you are fighting an illness, or you've been exposed to something, like you be gentle with yourself and low and slow. Same thing when people come in, that have been on tons of pharmaceuticals forever, or they've had a ton of surgeries and there's a lot of anesthesia associated and residing in their cells. It's low and slow. We want to open up the cell membrane, or like make it more permeable slowly. If you all of a sudden release all those waste and toxins that have been building up for decades, they're probably going to not feel good, right? And so we want to mitigate any detox as far as feeling symptoms from it. It's important to drink a ton of water when you're using BEMER too, because what is our blood made up of mainly? What is our body made up of? Water. And so that just helps facilitate the process of getting rid of the waste and toxins. But, it's not a race. And I think, that's what's really important when you start incorporating these devices, to use them as directed. There's a reason for that. And not to go overboard. So many times we're like, oh my gosh, I feel so good doing this twice a day. I want to do it 10 times a day. It's not necessary. And that's not how BEMER was designed to be used.
But what I love is this technology is kind of that foundation where then you can stack on other technologies, supplements, and diet. And as we're talking about circulation, I just wanted to throw in the top 3 supplements that are important to enhance the results. And before I knew anything about silver or about BEMER or technologies, when Jackson's cells were underneath the microscope and they were all clumped together, we had gone back about 6 months later and done a test and saw the before. And then I actually had him take a sip of the accelerated silver and then redo his blood within 30 seconds. And the cells separated. So wow. The accelerated silver is enhancing that circulation and boosting the immune system. And then also, devitalizes all those foreign pathogens we're talking about. And the accelerated silver is programmed with frequencies, scalar frequencies, to clear emotional and physical shock from the body, improve the health of the thymus, improve lung function, devitalize those pathogens, the viruses that are around us now, and bacteria. So this is also something that everyone can take. The children, I love it for kids because kids can have their own bottle and take ownership of their health, and they can't overdose on it. So if they drink the whole thing, it's fine. Not that you want them to, but it's nice to give a child a little bit of ownership or a supplement that they can be in charge of. And that's where you instill this, I'm taking care of my body. The second one is the acceleradine iodine. That's not only antiviral and antifungal, antibacterial, all antimicrobial. It's anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. But what else it's doing is it's causing that healthy apoptosis, the turnover of the bad and diseased cells. And that goes in line with what the BEMER is doing in increasing circulation throughout the body. It's also opening the cells, and it's increasing ATP, that true cellular energy in the mitochondria, by 18 times. So that's only going to enhance your circulation and your results from the BEMER. It's also going to increase your thyroid. And you were talking about getting your warm hands and feet back, right? Well, that is also connected to circulation and the thyroid, and the iodine is extremely important for that as well. And then the last one, and I know you're a huge proponent of the accelerated ancient salt, because it is full of 62 minerals. It has a negative charge to it. It pulls out those positively charged toxins, parasites, and undigested fats. And it's made from the pure, raw, unheated, unrefined, ancient seabed and sea salt, and it's enhanced with scalar frequencies. And those frequencies help reorganize the DNA and help with nausea. And then what Heather and I have always talked about is that intracellular hydration, getting the cells truly hydrated, not just flooding your body with water, which can actually dehydrate you. So I wanted to mention those three things. And Heather, is there anything else that we did not go over with regards to the BEMER? I did want to mention, I have a lot of different technologies. I've been introduced to a lot. The setup, the training isn't always easy. It's always like, I don't even want to open the box because I don't want to put the thing together. The BEMER is the easiest thing in the entire world. And we have your lovely daughter, Violet, training people that are interested in buying one. And just check it out on my website and you can learn more there. But Heather, is there anything that we've missed?
Yeah, I mean, it's I can't imagine my life without BEMER, to be honest with you. It's something that is so easy to do. First thing in the morning, 8 minutes, and it sets you for your day. And then you do it in the evening. I mean, if you can't put aside 16 minutes a day for yourself on that cellular level, just to get everything flowing, then we need to have another discussion. And then, just also, like, as a family, to have it there. I mean, we all have accidents and, get hurt here and there. I mean, it is such an important tool to have, so you don't have to rush to the ER. I mean, obviously it's not going to sew a limb back on if you're in a major accident, but I mean, it's almost like it's my go-to for pretty much everything. I mean, when Violet had braces, instead of giving her ibuprofen for the pain when they first tightened them, we just exposed her to the BEMER with the B spot on both sides, and her pain was gone. I mean, stuff like that is just so much, better for us and our kids. So yeah, if anyone has questions, I mean, the website has a ton of information and some great videos. There's a 2-minute video that shows you before, during, and after what's actually happening. And then there's also one that's an 8-minute video that just talks about the science. And then, yeah, we, if you're local, we offer hands-on training here at the center. And if you have any questions, it's something that I believe every single household should have, honestly.
Thank you, Heather. We've got the link below if you're interested, and you can email me through the website if you have any questions. Thank you so much, Heather, like always. And thank you, everyone else, for joining us today. If I can help you with your health issues, you can contact me directly through the website, SARABANTAHEALTH.com, whether it's about the BEMER or your own personal health issues, your chronic health issues, autoimmune issues. We are all suffering right now at some level, and there's a way out. Join my free group coaching on Telegram with the link below. I teach you on a daily basis with tips and tools to enhance your health, and you will love being a part of that group. That group supports you on your journey, and you get to take control of your health. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram under Accelerated Health Products, and across over 100 channels under Accelerated Health TV and radio show. My goal, as I mentioned, is to help everyone on earth with eyes to see and ears to hear my message of healing. So help me with that goal. Share this podcast with a few of your friends who may need my help. Join us every Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific, Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific, and you can find all of the information we talked about on the website, SARABANTAHEALTH.com. You can use coupon WELCOME10 for 10% off site-wide. Thanks again for joining us here, and have a great week.